who's waited so long. Mr. Hyun Lee, co-founder and VP at Titus 3D. He'll be the moderator of this AI session. And Mr. Andres Alvarado, Executive Director, Greater Spain of Telefonica. Mr. Jingji Khan, VP Open Collaboration Center at SK Telecom. Mr. Jeremy Goodwin, founding CEO of SyncFab. Mr. Shohei Sakazaki, Managing Director at Transit Capital. Last but not the least, Mr. Roland Shi, Director at Crowds. Please welcome them with a big hand.
Hello. It is my honor to be here in the panel with such the industry expert today. So as you know, like the AI and the blockchain industry 4.0 is a hot topic in these days, especially in Korea. So we want to discuss like the AI and blockchain, empowering the industry 4.0 today. Before discussing with that, let me introduce myself. So my name is Hon Yi, and I'm the co-founder of Titus 3D. And Titus 3D making the smart metal 3D printer in Silicon Valley. So we are using the AI and machine learning for the performance and quality. And also we are using the blockchain for the validation and security right now. So. Also, like I started my career with the LG, and then I spent 20 years in Silicon Valley in the various industries like robotic and telecommunication and CE. And then also like I have the only the Bitcoin the user at the time. So luckily I was quite good access to the smart Bitcoin community. So now I am advising several Bitcoin, blockchain and startup Silicon Valley right now. So let's see. Okay, please introduce from Roland yourself, and then introduce your company briefly and how you involve the AI and blockchain.
Just thank KOTRA for having us here. It's great to be here. My name is Roland Shi from Crowds. We're a Silicon-based blockchain solutions company. We focus on supply chain management and supply chain finance. As far as my background, I worked on an IoT property management startup with the Seoul Metropolitan Government before Crowds, and actually totally unrelated to tech, somewhat, real estate development, and before that I worked in government. And I'm the country director. Out of this office, we manage the Asia Pacific. Our offices are in Silicon Valley. We have a Chicago office. We're in Canada, Brazil, Korea, China, and now we're based in London, working with Barclays Bank.
Shohei?
안녕하세요. My name is Shohei Sakazaki. I'm a new business development consultant and startup investor located in Silicon Valley. As a consultant, I have a few projects that are related to AI. I'm currently assisting a Japanese automobile manufacturer to identify, evaluate, and collaborate with data analytics companies for demand prediction and inventory optimization. And some of the prospective partners that I work with, claim that they use AI or machine learning to generate prediction algorithm. And as an investor, I have made very small experimental investment in blockchain, Bitcoin, about 4 years ago. And I forgot about it, and it went up, and I sold half of it late last year and early this year, and diversified the remaining position into other cryptocurrencies and mining pools and initial coin offerings. And maybe I can talk more about it later.
안녕하세요. My name is Jeremy Goodwin with SyncFab. We are a precision manufacturing supply chain management public blockchain protocol based on Ethereum and decentralized application, which is being integrated in a procurement platform that was built out in public-private partnership with the Smart City Initiative through the San Francisco Mayor's Office of Civic Innovation, the San Francisco Bay Area city of San Leandro, where a lot of the industrial manufacturing is located, and also through a public-private partnership with a federal initiative in the U.S. called the Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Innovation Initiative. When SyncFab was first begun in 2013, it was under the context of exploring how advanced manufacturing technologies, their implications on responsiveness of supply chains and the importance of localized supply chains for hardware innovation and sustainable business models. And that was parlaying off my previous experience as the president and CFO of a NASDAQ Chinese infrastructure company, working on very large infrastructure projects around China, laying the foundation for high-speed rail and working on very prestigious projects in Beijing. So when I stepped away from that role following the financial crisis and certain crises that were happening in the financial markets, there was a big shift going on in terms of evolution of new advanced manufacturing technologies, shifting economics, and a lot of this is what led up to the focus on the emergence of the popularity of electric vehicles and a lot of new hardware innovations. And so what we've been focused on since the beginning is what the implications of responsive local supply chains are going to be to the accelerated innovation in those hardware industries.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Jungshik Khan. I'm working for SK Telecom for around 15 years. And SK Telecom is not South Korean telecom. It's just SK Telecom. It's SK Group. And it's #1 MNO in Korea. And it's very leading innovators of technology of the MNO side. So now I'm working for the Open Collaboration Center of SK Telecom. We are trying to change the digital transformation from the conventional MNO to the ISP company. So we are open the gate to all the outside ecosystems and working together with the inside business side. Because there are some cases for the outside small cap venture companies and the new technology companies, even though they are innovative, but they are trying to find an area to work together for a real business side. So we had a data and we had some kind of business ecosystems. So even though it is very good technology outside, but they have to try to find some data to work together. So that's one of the reasons we open Innovation Center, Open Collaboration Center in this year. And we are setting some 5 main categories for the open collaboration areas. #1 is big data. Second one is AI. Third one is blockchain. Fourth one is IoT based on the category. And last one is a security. Security area is one of the main areas for us. So it's a good chance to share my ideas, and it's time for me to learn more from you guys. Thank you very much. Andre.
Hello everyone. My name is Andrés Saborido and I'm in charge of WIRA, which is Telefonica Startup Accelerator or Telefonica Investor Earning Startup, or its open innovation platform. For those of you who are not familiar with Telefonica, this is one of the maybe largest telecom companies in Europe and Latin America. And we have invested since 2011 in more than 100 startups in Spain, which is our headquarters, and more than 500 startups worldwide in in all the startup hubs that we have in Munich, in UK, and in Latin America especially. We invested in IoT, cybersecurity, big data, cloud, among other fields. And our goal is to put all the open innovation in our customer hands. So this is our challenge. On the one hand, we have startup and talented people that generate innovation, but they need to scale up their business to grow. And on the other hand, we have Telefonica, governments, corporations that have the scale, but they need to innovate to continue in the market. So this is exactly what we do. We bring both together, innovation for our customers and the possibility to scale up the business of the startup working with us.
Okay, good. Actually, the major, main technology for the Industry 4.0 is AI, robotics, or 3D printing, bio materials, and blockchain. And then in this day, I have a lot of chance to have a meeting with investors in Silicon Valley, Japan, China, to raise some funding for my company. So the key, the word for those investors right now is the AI and the blockchain especially. So as the previous, the panel from the Orange, he mentioned that around early, the middle of 1990s, so there are new internet coming up, and then so we consider, and we have a lot of curiosity out there, why we need such a big bandwidth, because we don't have such a big the application to use a high bandwidth, right? So it's the same things for the blockchain and AI right now. So it's a kind of early stage, but we do have the two panel who already implement blockchain to the business model, right? Especially the Jeremy and Roland. So can you share your business model with the blockchain or the AI? Can you study first? Yeah.
So I'll just go over a use case.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So we did a pilot with a large steelmaker, top 3 steelmaker in the world, and we worked on several features. One of them was replacing their authentication for their basically e-commerce, B2B e-commerce marketplace, and they were paying several hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees to Symantec, and we created a combined blockchain and OTP solution for them. We also created a document management system whereby all of their EDI is electronic data interchange. It's basically what massive volumes of data, business data, is sent by. This is the protocol. It was created in the 1970s. Enterprise resource platforms, ERP systems, which many enterprise companies use, are based on EDI. And so the basis of our company is to replace these very old, outdated, inefficient EDI-based transactions. And so we focused on letters of credit, sales orders, certificates of origin, and placing them all on the blockchain. And we successfully completed our pilot, and we're currently in discussions with them. And we're also discussing pilots with other large companies, consumer goods companies, specifically combining IoT and blockchain to ensure the integrity of food supply chains, which is a problem throughout Asia, particularly in China. So we've learned a lot. Blockchain is very nascent technology. It's very exciting. It's actually really fun to be in this space right now, right? But I think as more business cases and more business use cases are implemented, we'll kind of learn from those, right? And kind of, it's kind of learned by doing at this stage. As far as our partnership, we have a partnership with Barclays. We're introducing basically what is called in finance factoring. So we are purchasing invoices and placing them on the blockchain. So blockchain-based invoices. and having a special focus on small, medium businesses. Cash flow is a huge problem for small, medium businesses. They usually have terms of payment, 30 net, 60 net, and they need access to cash. So what we're offering them is a quick way to free up their cash by purchasing their invoices and basically facilitating the cash flow. So that's in the pipeline as well.
Good. Jeremy?
So how we're using blockchain at SyncFab, we see the blockchain being integrated into our business model at so many levels. But to start initially, one of our basic mandates under an agreement we have with the city of San Leandro is to bring more business to the factories. Now, that being said, manufacturing industry is actually very, very busy right now. That's not to say that it's efficient at all, and that's no mystery to people who are deeply involved in supply chain or in manufacturing, and they experience the pains of supply chain bottlenecks. But there's still a lot of available capacity, underutilized capacity, or untracked capacity, or unknown capacity that's out there. So our mission ultimately is to figure out how to log it, make it more traceable, make it more accessible, and ultimately make it more responsive. That way we can better fulfill our mandate to bring more business to these factories. So that being said, we use initially a feature of blockchain, which is the incentive alignment principle, to tokenize incentives for manufacturers to do a very basic function, which is the RFQ, a request for quote. So when a car manufacturer or a vacuum chamber manufacturer or a medical device manufacturer puts out an RFQ, they usually do so just on the basis that the factory is going to take their time to quote the job on the basis that they might win it. And the time they take out to do that, ultimately, at that time is just free time they take out of their day. That can be anywhere from half an hour to half a day to half a week. And what's happening in Silicon Valley right now, for example, is much talked about Tesla, is they're hogging a lot of the manufacturing capacity all around the Bay. From a lot of these small and medium-sized manufacturers, so that medium-sized manufacturers with real needs for their businesses are unable to access the capacity that they need when they need it. And how can we make the supply chain more responsive for them? In addition, not to mention the small hardware innovators who are providing a lot of the fuel for the innovative hardware designs of the future. How are they going to get access? How are they going to be on an equal footing? So we introduced this token incentive for those factories to quote those jobs for the precision parts that go into the unfinished assembly or assembled goods at the precision part phase to manufacture those precision parts. We incentivize the manufacturers to quote more of those jobs and to try and provide an equal footing for the small hardware innovators, as well as giving greater access for the medium-sized manufacturers who need access to these precision parts production as well. In addition to that, at the same time, we're generating more mobility of the data behind the production processes of these precision parts. And in the process, building out the blockchain for smart contracts that ultimately are executing the log capabilities that we have, our understanding of supply chain purchase managers, purchasing manners and methods, so that as we're matching them in our current environment, we can do that in an accelerated capacity with these smart contracts, with heightened security for the intellectual property of the product designs that go behind these parts and components, which can be encrypted in the smart contracts, as opposed to the current model, which is simply to sign an NDA and then to just launch those product designs out into the ether. And so this provides a heightened level of security, as well as providing future access to the life cycle of the production of that part, the certifications that went with it, the technical documentation that goes along with it, so that it can be more efficiently tracked by the OEMs or by the ultimate manufacturers and their supply chain purchase department. So we see many other applications for this. not just at our municipal partnership level, but also with the federal partnership that we're part of, which is under the DOE and DOC, which they're looking to encourage a lot of the larger manufacturers to figure out how to more willingly pool or share some of the relevant data so that manufacturing can become smarter. And we see blockchain as being a key accelerant to this process, to this initiative. There's a lot more I can talk about, but I'm going to stop there for now.
Well, I should say that we are learning about this field. Actually, we have been analyzing many startups based on blockchain with many different use cases or promises. But truth be told, it was hard for us to find one startup that make us fall in love until we met Wibson. You know that at Telefonica we care about personal data, and Wibson is a blockchain-based decentralized data marketplace that provides individuals a way to securely and anonymously self-validated private information in a trusted environment. You know that the largest companies in the world are profiting from personal data, but your personal data belongs to you. Therefore, you must have control over it and participate in the profits if there's a case.
So the Andre mentioned that he recently invested in one of the blockchain company, right? So most time in the VC in Silicon Valley, I mean, they like ICO, and then sometimes, I mean, they hesitate to invest the ICO company, or they still keep on like keeping on the IPO, I mean, side. So in the investment perspective, I mean, which one, I mean, do you prefer? I mean, it's kind of a question, but do you prefer the ICO or the IPO? I mean, for the startup, I mean, Andre?
Yeah, ICO.
Oh, really? Well, how about the Shohei? I mean, from the investment perspective.
I think, you know, ICO and IPO is like apple and orange. They are very different and can be, you know, tasted in different ways. And, but from corporate finance perspective, I think it is good to have various alternatives. So, you know, different types of companies at different stage of development can use, you know, ICO or IPOs. But IPO is not something everyone can use, but ICO is for, you know, everyone. I mean, if you are like a, you know, startup with digital business utilizing blockchain, I think, you know, you can try ICO at least, and ICO is open for, you know, everybody. I mean, of course, you know, the regulations becoming tighter, and you know, SEC is taking closer look into it, and so maybe it's getting more difficult to you know, raise funds using ICO from ordinary investors, but you have to approach accredited investors. But still, I think it's open, and for, you know, smaller companies, and yeah.
Definitely, the blockchain is, I mean, the key, I mean, the component for the Industry 4.0, right? But especially in Korea, I mean, a lot of people having interest in, like the cryptocurrency, right? So they consider the blockchain as the cryptocurrency. So I have a question to Mr. Han. I mean, how your company, the policy for the blockchain or any, I mean, the business plan, I mean, with the blockchain or AI things?
Especially, we are not invested in cryptocurrency at all. And we are working with our internal business side. We launched the business blockchain business unit, and finding what kind of business models will be working well in the blockchain side. So, as already we had a meeting with the crowd is about how can we make a more efficient back end of supply chain, issues like that. And we are also working on defining some models for the smart contract side, because if there are many contracts, it's inefficiently working. So we are, how can we make some kind of blockchain-based smart contract side? And it's to make some contract with the customers and also we contract with the partners. But the problem is that the regulatory side is not set up well especially in Korea. So that will be one problem for there are some kind of the hurdles from the legal side and also that. So we are working on some kind of business model is one of our main target to develop. And now might be preparing some kind of announcement for what kind of layer of business will be our focus area of the blockchain side. Yes.
Actually, we will discuss, the more detail about the regulation and policy in each country, because we have a bunch of panel from the different countries, especially. So actually, in Silicon Valley, the Industry 4.0 is kind of not popular, unusual word. So we are using the different types of the wording, like advanced manufacturing or smart manufacturing or digital, transformation. So as a machine builder, I have a lot of chance to meet the machine shop or manufacturing facility nearby the Silicon Valley or LA area. And they are pretty busy, for the Tesla or other electric car or the SpaceX stuff. So, but when I had a meeting with those, the owner of the company, they are pretty much stick on the conventional manufacturing on the way. So it's really hard to persuade the selling out the metal 3D printer such for the advanced manufacturing. So I have some question to the Jeremy. How do you persuade your SyncFab things to the conventional or the current manufacturing the customer?
That's a great question, and just in your lead up to that, there were so many things flashing through my mind in terms of the illustration of the Industry 4.0 paradigm, the application of advanced manufacturing and smart manufacturing technologies to achieve that, and the actual scenario today where we actually sit. So Germany's talking about Industry 4.0, China's talking about Industry 4.0, Korea's talking about it, and in America we've been talking about advanced manufacturing technologies for the past several years, which a lot of that was precipitated by a lot of the excitement about 3D printing in around 2012, 2013. And so the smart manufacturing term that's a part of this federal partnership we're part of is kind of an anomaly that way, because the Europeans, they use that term a lot more, but ultimately it refers to that data-driven, process-optimized approach to advanced manufacturing. And in terms of the current composition of the actual manufacturing composition when you go out there, and there's several issues that we're facing. We're still very much in an Industry 2.0, if you will, paradigm. And a lot of these new technologies have been introduced in kind of a very mixed result and mixed application type approach with robotics and automation and 3D printing and third-party logistics and artificial intelligence and machine learning, and everything's just kind of thrown together. And how we're going to work our way through the current model and to reach the smart connected factory of Industry 4.0 in time to achieve these projections that Deloitte and Cisco were mentioning by 2024 and 2025 of a $4 trillion industry. And so when we go out and we speak to these factories today, a lot of these small and medium-sized automation compatible manufacturers, precision parts producers, are very much an aging workforce based shop that are using technology that's been around since the the 1980s and 1990s, but it's continued to innovate and improve in increments as a lot of the machine manufacturers are innovating on their designs, including Samsung, including Hyundai, including Haas, including DMG Mori, that are the workhorses, the machines that a lot of these machinists use to produce those precision parts. And how do we encourage them to be more responsive and to participate more, to be more efficient, and to produce more parts, so that, as the gentleman up here before he mentioned that probably fewer cars are actually going to be produced, but a lot more parts for those cars are going to be produced, and all the documentation that goes behind that is going to be required. And so that's going to require more. They're not going to have time to order this part and wait for it to come from the other side of the world, unless it's going to be just like materialized somehow. Then it needs to have a more responsive local supply chain. So any shop we go into, no matter how busy they are, they're still willing to talk to us because they either know who we are through our partnerships, but also they're always open to new business. The question is whether or not they want to take the business, or whether or not they want to take the time to quote the job, to quote the business, or to be much less be compatible with this new smart connected factory paradigm. So we go in there and we say, hey, would you like more business? Sure. Who is it for? Tell us more about it. This is on a very introductory type level. Yeah, a lot of these guys are in their 60s or 70s. So we're facing a real issue right now, not only in the United States, but all over the world, that the manufacturing industry has been neglected for quite a long time because of this fascination with other technology, so that the future workforce isn't necessarily there. And so how do we engage them more? So we'll ask them a basic question, have you heard of blockchain? Well, I know what a block is, I know what a chain is. How do you connect the two? Have you heard of Bitcoin? Oh, sure, yeah, that's a fraud. Okay, well, what if you can earn a derivative of this just doing what you normally do, just quoting more jobs? Oh, that's interesting, tell me more about it. And then as they engage and start to actually get more jobs, first of all, they're getting compensated for the time that they're quoting a job anyway. None of these guys expect to win the job even 50% of the time. So automatically they're quoting more jobs immediately. We pre-qualify them, make sure that they're qualified, quotes for the jobs that they're quoting. So that's a win-win there already. Right. And since we see the build-up to this $4 trillion, this creation of this $4 trillion of value by 2024, 2025, where are all those resources going to come from? Are they going to be investments from the Korean government, the US government? Is Samsung going to put all that money out there? No, what we see is there's these new layers of economic value being created on top of existing value. And that's one of the huge value propositions of blockchain. So in terms of the responsiveness we can get from these factories, a way that we need to generate more solidarity, more participation is through this incentive layer, this incentive alignment principle that was built into the blockchain to begin with. And these guys comprise about 90% of the manufacturing supply chain in the United States, and most likely worldwide. And Tesla relies on them to a tremendous capacity. Almost no manufacturer manufactures 100% of their product, unless it's a very, very simple product, like a pen or like a glass. The closest thing you have to a true manufacturer probably is something like an auto manufacturer, where they design it, brand it, manufacture it as much as possible that they can on their own. And Tesla probably has one of the most advanced factories in the world in terms of being close to that idea that we have of a smart connected factory. So they have implemented a lot of the automation assembly processes and the automation manufacturing processes, and they still rely greatly on the exterior supply chain. So figuring out how to better connect them, not through a private blockchain, but through a public-private blockchain, so that that data can be mobilized. Sorry, going on. That's our vision, and this is how we're engaging them.
Yeah, actually, is there any difficulty integrate the blockchain into your business model at the first time? Jeremy or Roland? Because I think there are still the drug blockchain is not the only the method to resolve current issues, right? So I believe that as I mentioned before, the blockchain in the early stage right now. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley and they try to adopt the blockchain technology to their current the business, but they hesitate to the upset the kind of thing. So
I'll keep it short and then I'll pass it to Roland.
Sure.
So, of course, there's difficulties because, as Roland mentioned, it's a nascent technology, and it was only really when we saw more adoption in the broader industry that we decided to even integrate it. So we've known about blockchain technology since the early days, since 2010, but it didn't really make sense to try and implement it until we saw enough adoption. And now, the World Economic Forum is saying that about 10% of global GDP is going to be transacted on blockchain by 2025. So that trend is most likely going to continue. In terms of integration, there's definitely integration challenges. There's scalability challenges. There's execution time, execution cost challenges. There's interoperability challenges. There's smart contract versus contract law challenges. There's all kinds of challenges. But Industry 4.0 is coming.
Right.
And the manufacturing industry has to be ready. And those who aren't are going to be left behind, period.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that the blockchain will change the world. But the last year, there are about 900, the ICO, that happened through the Ethereum, right? About I think 70% failed, for the ICO. So I think your company ICO already, or?
No. So maybe I'll answer your first question.
Sure, yeah.
So Crowds, we actually started as a B2B marketplace for small, medium businesses. And one of the features that we built out was kind of this anonymous reverse auction where small, medium businesses can come together, pool their resources anonymously, and buy in bulk from larger sellers, right? And so we were working on this for a few years. We were founded in 2014, and we also created a machine learning AI seller-buyer matching system, just for the search, right? And as we built this marketplace, and then as blockchain came along, we realized, wow, this is perfect technology for our business model, right? We use Ethereum. We're on the ERC20 token, and we're also using ERC87. And the value proposition of the blockchain is that it's highly secure. You hear all these words like immutable, provenance. It's permanent, right? And it's highly secure, theoretically unhackable, unless you control more than 51% of the nodes, the networks. So it fit perfectly with us, and we started adopting it, integrating it into our company, and through the pilot, Jeremy mentioned, there's scalability issues, but there's a difference between private networks of blockchain and public networks. So we got around the scalability issue by creating a private network for our enterprise customer. And so in that respect, the tokens, it's unlimited. The transaction cost is within this private ecosystem, behind a firewall, right? And blockchain is an overlay network, and so it sits on their existing networks. So so in answer to your second question, we're thinking about doing an ICO, but we're actually focusing on building out kind of the rails and the infrastructure for supply chain management and finance first. And we're considering doing an ICO. So this year is the year of the stablecoin. You might have heard, it's a big buzzword. Last year was, the 900 ICOs that didn't get off the ground. Well, why is that? Because there's no asset that is behind those cryptocurrencies, right? And a lot of these cryptocurrencies that are active in the market right now, Bitcoin came first, and then Ethereum was funded by Bitcoin, and then you have all these other altcoins that are, successively kind of tied to Bitcoin, which, in my opinion, it was, the demand for Bitcoin is for illicit activities, right? So black market activity is what's giving that value to that Bitcoin. And so people realize that a lot of enterprise companies, as well as governments, they want to stay away from the blockchain. But what I view our coin, if and when we do an ICO, it's a stable coin. We're tied to actual assets. And so I was reading an article on a venture capitalist that described a business similar to ours. And what we do is we manage back-end data management, basically. And he said, basically, you know, it's the most boring, mundane activity that you can think of. It makes you want to stick a fork in your leg, right? Like, I'd rather do that than do this day in and day out. But if you think about it, I mean, that's what blockchain needs, is a stable, constant, consistent transaction. And so we focus on businesses, right, and their business transactions. And these businesses, they have to transact. You know, they have to order goods. You know, they have to receive payment. There's no question about it. It's just a matter of timing, right? And so we're tying the value of the goods on those invoices, on those sales orders, on those letters of credit to our potential ICO. And so we'll also, so we're creating a fund traditionally through hedge funds, institutional investors and whatnot to back investing in those blockchain-based invoices and whatnot. So it's forthcoming, but we're focusing on building our infrastructure first and then potentially ICO.
Yeah, I'd like to spend more time on the blockchain, but we have a time limit out there. So that's, I mean, jumping on to the other topic. So we have, I mean, two investors here. So what is your, I mean, the major concern to invest in, you know, the AI or the blockchain? I mean, they're relating with Industry 4.0, I mean, yes, so, Andre.
Nothing different than what we were talking about. I always look for a solution for a problem. When I understand that an entrepreneur is creating a new problem, I try to go away. I like entrepreneurs that solve real problems with that technology.
Sure.
I think both, you know, AI and blockchain are, you know, kind of general purpose technologies that can potentially change everything, but still they are not mature yet and, you know, used for special purposes only, and you know, it may take a while for them to achieve full potentials. And from investors' perspectives, I think we have to be prepared that you know, a few more cycles of boom and bust, you know, will be there for, you know, for those technologies to be real. And you know, if you look at it in Silicon Valley, it's a kind of dirty secret that the, you know, business model for AI blockchain is like raise a lot of funds and, you know, invest in R&D and get acquired, or, you know, go IPO even if you're not making money. So still, you know, I think many companies in these areas are struggling to establish real business model. I think because, especially because there are large gap between POC to commercial deployment, and also, you know, if you don't have access to you know, real big data, you cannot really you know, demonstrate the benefits of AI or what, you know, whatever. So so there are a lot of challenges, and, you know, so I think we should be cautiously optimistic about investment in these spaces.
Yeah, as I remember, I mean, middle of 1990, I mean, Korean government spent a lot of investment on to, I mean, install the infrastructure for the high-speed internet and then mobile, I mean, the things, and then we do have a lot of, I mean, the success story in our digitalization of the internet, right? So that's why the Korea, I mean, itself has a lot of development, you know, some kind of internet, I mean, the business or some other digital things, right? So also, I mean, the Industry 4.0, I mean, technology based on previous technology like internet, right? So how is, I mean, especially SKT is one of the the driver for the digitalization thing, the digitalization in the area. So how do you prepare for the Industry 4.0, and then what do you think about the current government, their policy and regulation about Industry 4.0, especially blockchain and AI?
SK Telecom is a conventional mobile network operator, but it's as you already mentioned, the digitalization of SK Telecom Korea. SK Telecom gave much more value for digitalization. At the time when I started working here in 2002, there is the 3G, and then EBD was launched by SK Telecom, and there are first mobile videos on even though it's a very fully platform, but now the LTE is the main service, is the video. All the people in Korea is watching the video in subway, and even though they are walking. So the old things that I think converge the media side of the content should be the #1 content consumption and services for the LTE side. Now, as already mentioned, for the 5G is another technical point. And SK Telecom is also think about want to be the ICT company. Our new CEO is already announced want to be the ICT company. So we are watching what kind of things are outside of the globally. So #1 is blockchain, but our blockchain unit leader has some kind of experience to explain what is the blockchain to all the C-levels. They said it's a coin, or that they don't know well about what's going on. But as Roland already mentioned, that we are finding the BM, business models for really blockchain is working with some kind of the real BM. So that's contract side and the supply chain side, and also digital content distributions. That's one of the reasons for SK Telecom wants to be work that find a new BM. And the transformation things, the data is most important things for now SK Telecom is to give a value. So digital transformation team is, and all the organizations wants already make their digital data lake already. And now we are finding some kind of AI solutions like a machine vision or the analytics, and also SK Telecom has a new as a voice recognition speaker like Alexa, launched in Korea already, firstly, and finding what is the feedback from, and what kind of things are learning from the customers, real customers, and launched the new services for our T-Map service, the navigation service is #1 in Korea. We can launch that kind of things through the T-Map, and we are finding some locations, and even though call me or call my wife or something like that, it's working on using the driving side. And also that context, think that we are, as SK Telecom is a service company, so we are finding what kind of services can be contact with the customers as AI based. So the voice recognition things, and so now SK Telecom is launching some kind of services based on the AI or something like that. It's a service-oriented company. Should be one of them, yeah.
Actually, without the government support, even though we have a technology, so we cannot, it belongs to the next level, right? So, is there anyone, that can share how, how your country, your country, government, the regulated or the makeup, the policy to the new, the technology such as the AI and blockchain, especially in Silicon Valley. Those guys from the Silicon Valley, do you have any the idea how the USA government, has the plan for the policy or regulation for the blockchain or AI? Jeremy?
Well, so as far as policy and regulation goes, I mean, the main point of regulation, I can't speak on behalf of the government, but the main point of regulation seems to be that it's not to impede innovation, but to protect privacy and to protect against fraud. But while at the same time to encourage innovation, and particularly with an emphasis on to encourage and to support innovation. So what we've seen is that there's definitely a great deal of excitement and also some sense of being overwhelmed by the widespread implications and potential impact of blockchain technology, as was evidenced in the month of February, when pretty much every US regulatory agency came out and was discussing the background of these ICOs, while at the same time, many government departments have been exploring in eagerness using or implementing their own blockchain initiatives for exploring how they can use it in their own industry. The Navy, for example, is a major example. They're looking at ways to apply blockchain for their procurement process. There's also many initiatives at municipal levels around the country as well. So it would seem that based on the outcome, that it's still not very clear. They kind of left it in the air, and they're looking which I would say is very much in contrast to Japan, which seems to just be embracing the technology and just laying a clear guideline and framework, which is great to see. And then with the recent subpoena of Facebook, there's a big focus now on data integrity and privacy. And so how that's going to be impacted by blockchain, well, we only see blockchain as enabling more of that privacy and security. So we think that there's going to be a lot more positive traction and development there very soon. And we also see that as having implications in the artificial intelligence realm. I don't think there's going to be any artificial intelligence particular policy or regulation coming out, even though it's a hot debate amongst, well, actually Elon likes to talk about it a lot. They have their own kind of Silicon Valley private group of artificial intelligence and what the implications are going to be, but no policy or regulatory initiative has come out as of yet.
So any comment on the regulation and policy here, or could there be a run of time? Okay.
I'm not really representing Japan, but I just did quick research on Japanese government's some initiatives with Industry 4.0 type of activities. So the Japanese government announced connected industries concept in March 2017 to catch up or keep up with German manufacturers' activities. And the connected industries covers a wide range of industries, from self-driving, robotics, biotech, and so forth. But what I found interesting about the Japanese government is one, they're also focusing on safety of factories and infrastructure. And the other thing is about collaboration between human and AI, or harmonious coexistence of those two. So probably because culturally and socially, Japanese CEOs are not really encouraged to maximize value for shareholders only. They are supposed to keep the people and revitalize the internal resources of the company, rather than just doing layoff and maximize short-term profit. That I thought was interesting, and also the Japanese government is trying to establish an environment where companies and other organizations can share and utilize data more efficiently beyond the existing boundaries. So that's another thing, the Japanese government is trying to do. And as Jeremy said, Japanese government initially very friendly to blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I think they are one of the first to officially define the category of cryptocurrency in the as an asset, digital asset, and also taxation framework, and also some licensing cryptocurrency exchanges and so forth, which I thought was somewhat unusual for the Japanese government to be progressive and aggressive to adopt to those new things. And because of all the scandals these days, they are becoming a little bit more cautious and trying to regulate more tightly. But I think they are, so that's a kind of Japanese government's activities in this area.
Okay, thanks. To time, take the question from the audience. So.
Thank you, panelists, for sharing your insights. Due to delay in schedule, we'll take only one question from the audience.
One of the criticisms that we've heard about blockchain is the high energy consumption of transactions. Is that justified? What's being done in that space to address that issue?
I'll attempt to comment on it. We're working on a pre-mined blockchain, so I think that the energy consumption has to do with the high number of transactions on any particular blockchain for the miners as they're validating or going through the consensus process. And there's a lot of discussion about energy cost in different geographies using different framework, operational consensus validation methods, whether they be proof of work, proof of stake, or proof of process. There's a lot of debate going on in the blockchain community right now, how to optimize those energy costs and to more streamline the process. China has been doing a lot of the mining for the past few years, and energy costs have fluctuated quite a bit there. The computing industry and the CPU producers, they're looking at ways to create more efficient chips that consume less power. A lot of the miners are looking at setting up more energy efficient operations using more lower energy cost type operations or renewable energy sources, as well as implementing these new consensus protocols that will require less energy consumption and less effort on the part of the miners, like a proof of stake as opposed to a proof of work. So those are three approaches. It's still very early, and it's that interesting point in the time of blockchain evolution where it's going through these growing pains. As it's scaling so quickly, the energy costs are starting to become an issue, and so the community is responding in kind by coming up with various solutions, and three of which I just mentioned.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the end of our morning conference. Thank you, panelists and moderators again. Please give them another big round of applause. One-on-one business meetings will start at 1:30 p.m. and biotech seminars will begin at 2 p.m. in this room. Please enjoy your lunch and be back by 1:25 p.m. if you're scheduled for business meetings. Pre-registered buyers, panelists with coupons are invited to a welcoming luncheon in room Allegro, so please join us now. Thank you.